All right, hi, it's Seibo Shen with Vapexhale. I'm sitting here with Jake Shields, former UFC fighter, champion in almost every organization that he's fought in. We feel really blessed to have him here. Today he's actually going to be getting on an airplane really soon to be going out to the UK.
Yep.
Jake,
Yeah.
can you tell him why you're flying out there?
Yeah, I'll be flying out to London in a couple hours. I have a big submission match. It's a professional sub match at this show Polaris, and it's awesome that submission tournaments are turning pro now. Because for a while it was always really big, but there wasn't money in it. So now I have these leagues coming up like Polaris, Metamoras, EBI. So it's great for the sport that we can go out there and do what I love and make a little money.
Got it. And, I think for a lot of people that have maybe just tuning in for the first time or don't know a lot about Jiu-Jitsu, can you tell them just a little bit about how Jiu-Jitsu tournaments used to be like and what's different about Polaris?
Yeah, Jiu-Jitsu is just it's the grappling art of going out there and trying to submit your opponent and finish them. And the tournaments were structured before, people come and watch, and there's multiple matches going on, but generally you're paying to compete for a medal, and also it's points. But Polaris is this is done more like it's almost like a fight, a big professional. They set it up, they put you on a big stadium, kind of like the Kumite and Bloodsport, so it's a big thing where everyone's watching, bright lights. Makes it really exciting. They also changed the rules, so there's no points. So it encourages the only way to win is to submit your opponent. So a lot of jiu-jitsu tournaments, you get guys going out there trying to, they'll get ahead by like 2 points, and then they'll just stall and shut their game down. But this, the only way you can win is for both guys to submit. So it encourages you to go out there and try to finish, go for the finish.
Got it. And when they score points, that's more like wrestling, right? They're getting positional dominance.
You get points for passing the guard, getting position, which. It is a dominant position, which, for punching and stuff, it would be good for a martial art perspective. But for the fans, it's good if you're only going out there trying to choke the guy or armbar. It makes it more exciting to watch. And to get this sport to get more money in it, you have to have people watching it.
Yeah, what's interesting is I've been watching UFC since 93, so since the beginning.
Since the very beginning right there.
And I've appreciated the ground game, but it wasn't until I watched the first EBI that I got interested in doing submission grappling myself. So I'm a huge fan of, Polaris, Metamoras, EBI, anything that is promoting this submission style only, because I believe it's more the pure essence of submission.
Yeah, I think
grappling,
originally
right?
Jiu-Jitsu is it started for two purposes. One, to go out there and finish your opponent with submission. Also, MMA, if you can punch, it's very important to have dominant positions like, mount and stuff. So, but this brings it back to the martial art perspective of not going out and trying to win by points. Some of the jiu-jitsu tournaments have kind of gone away from that, where they're putting themselves in a bad position where they would get punched, and it does nothing to submit the guy. So it becomes kind of pointless in martial arts. This brings it back to the martial arts roots of going out there and trying to finish your opponent.
That's interesting. That's an interesting way to look at it. So, in the way sport jiu-jitsu was evolving, it was actually taking the self-defense
almost away from the martial
aspect.
art. Yeah, because if you go back to MMA, you're going to use, getting position like mount, side mount, those are good for MMA. But some of this, not taking away from it, it's still a sport. But some of these sweep positions and some of these guards they're playing, it's not really a martial art, because if you take it to a real fight, you're going to get punched in the face and you're doing nothing to submit the opponent. So if you're not trying to actually finish the guy or put yourself in a dominant punching position, to me, it's not really a martial art. It doesn't mean I have nothing against it as a sport, but it becomes a sport instead of a martial art.
Right. It's taken a little bit of it like away from the essence of why it was created.
Jiu-Jitsu was created as a martial art to go beat someone up. Originally, it was no time limit, just go out there and fight till somebody wins.
Yeah, I love those first ones.
Yeah, it was awesome. Just go out there. So they didn't have to rush things. Jiu-Jitsu, it was about they could take their time and wait for a submission to happen.
As I have heard, cooking the beans is the term I had heard. So that's something I'm learning as well, as someone that exhausts his gas tank quite a bit. Now I'm starting to learn about cooking the beans. And
exactly, because you can go out there and just attack, and you're feeling great. The next thing you know, your body starts fading out, and you're done. And the guy you're going against is going to tap you out.
Yeah. So we're super excited to have Jake Shields represent us at Polaris. I think a lot of people know you as a UFC fighter and one of the founders of American Jiu-Jitsu, but I don't think a lot of people know a lot about what your personal interests are. So what I was wanting to do was to, ask you a few questions.
Okay.
Like, what's some of the favorite, like, before you're preparing for an event, what type of music do you like to listen to?
That varies a lot. I like music from all different genres, so it really depends on my mood, to get pumped up. Sometimes stuff like Rage Against the Machine, some of the, some old punk like Rancid, that's kind of the pump up music. But sometimes I like to relax, too, before, put some reggae, some Bob Marley, Jimmy Cliff, even country, like some Johnny Cash, Hank Williams, something to kind of relax to. But I'm one of those guys who like all genre of music. Of course, hip hop too. You know, you always get pumped up to like Eminem or D12. I'm a very eclectic mix of music.
Yeah. Well, I think out of the stuff that you mentioned, you know, I love the reggae as well as the hip hop. You know, it's interesting how the music could take you to different places. Do you ever use it to intensify your training, or?
You know, we listen to music sometimes in the background, but a lot of times when I'm training, I'm not really too focused on the music. I know a lot of people they run with music. Generally, I run without the music, so I can kind of just focus on my head, trying to push myself mentally without it.
Interesting. So when you are running without music and you're focusing, like, what are you focusing on? Your opponent, on your techniques?
Yeah, I think. Well, I just, you know, if I'm running a casual slow run, then I'll listen to music. But I'm really trying to push myself. I like not having the music, so I can just focus on the push. You know, thinking about your opponent and pushing the body through those barriers if I'm running sprints or something.
Got it. So we talked a little bit about the music you like to listen to. What about movies? You know, what type of movies you like to watch?
I don't watch movies that often, but again, you know, I like comedy sometimes. Some of the old movies, you know, I used to like the Tarantino movies like Fight Club. Some of those ones are a little bit of a head trip. Mm-hmm. Lately, I've been watching a little more TV. They got all the series and stuff on Netflix. I started getting into that. It's so easy.
Yeah. You know what's interesting is every time I call you, you're either training or about to train. So I didn't think you had too much time to be.
That's my life. Training all day.
Yeah.
But I mostly enjoy it. So.
Yeah, I could relate in that I work all day. You know, I do enjoy it, but you know, there are times when people talk about like House of Cards or Walking Dead or Game of Thrones, and I'm like, man, I really wish I could be along with you guys on this journey, but
I watched a few of the TV shows. I did watch Game of Thrones. That's excellent. I recommend. I recommend. Everyone talks about it. Sometimes you're like, oh, do I really want to watch that? But then you start watching it. After 3 or 4 episodes, you'll get hooked, and you'll catch up and realize why everyone's watching it.
Yeah, my wife works on me for like 2 years. You know, she'll watch a show, and then after like 2 years of convincing me, I'll finally sit down and after I watch them, I'm like, man, I could see why people try to convince other people because it's so engaging.
Problem is you can get so sucked in one of those shows if you're not careful. Sometimes, you know, like with Game of Thrones, when I started watching that, I watched it too fast. And same with Breaking Bad. Finally, I started watching it. Next thing you know, I'm watching like 3 episodes a night, looking at the clock, like, oh shit, it's almost 3 in the morning.
Right.
I better go to bed.
Right. You're building meth-like habits watching those shows.
Yeah, pretty much.
So you know, I think this is a good segue. Like we just talked about, you're training a lot. So what do you do in your off hours?
Well, luckily, you know, Jiu-Jitsu is my hobby and my career, so that worked out really well. I actually love and enjoy training Jiu-Jitsu, so I'm happy it worked. That's my biggest hobby. But then other than that, I love traveling. I travel quite often, which is great. I'm going to London for this tournament. Then I get to go to Norway, doing seminars out there, and I'll get to go check out the beautiful country. And then as well as that, I love being outdoors. You know, I like going hiking on the weekends, snowboarding, anything outdoors just to get away and be in nature.
I think I just found out your middle name's Sequoia, so it would be weird if you weren't a outdoorsy nature type of guy.
Yeah.
Were you always an outdoorsy type of guy, or is this something that kind of came along?
Yeah, we actually kind of grew up out in the 3 hours east out in the country, Calaveras, kind of out in the boonies. So I grew up always out hiking, mountain biking, rock climbing. So it was natural to me.
Oh, cool. So I wanted to kind of just slightly deviate from what we were talking about into something that has been a little bit more kind of top of mind for me, which is, the idea of utilizing cannabis as an athlete, but still being a parent. You know, I know you have a teenager.
Yeah.
You know, I was just curious, have you spoken to your daughter about, how you utilize cannabis and what your relationship with the plant is?
That's actually a very tricky issue. It leaves you one of those things, thinking like, how do you talk to your kids like that? Because I believe in not lying to your kids. So many parents are like, oh, it's evil, stay away from this. And I think that's kind of the wrong approach. Like my dad, who smoked when I was a kid, but he would just say, be careful. So I kind of think, kind of the same approach. I recommend her not to do it until you're at least 18. I tell her I don't think it's good for kids. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. It's a lot better than doing like hard drugs, but I really don't think. I think it is better for people to wait till they're till their mind and stuff's fully matured. And not that you're necessarily fully matured at 18. you're still maturing. I think it's definitely better for kids to wait until they go through that phase. I mean, I smoked in high school, so I guess I'd be a hypocrite. But it's just honestly, I think it's better. I'll give my honest opinion. It's better to wait, and if you do smoke, just be careful about it. It's some people can smoke all the time and have no problems. It can be beneficial to them, but other people it can be negative. So it's even though I'm a smoker, I just tell people you have to be careful how you use it, because it is a drug, but for some people it's definitely very beneficial, and other people it can be a hindrance. So just make sure you're not if you're doing it, it's not stopping you from doing anything.
Yeah. So, you know, for me, I like to ask that question, even though I know that sometimes it's difficult for people to answer because, you know, they have conflicting thoughts about, you know, I use it as a medicine, but, you know, I don't want my kid to use it right away. And I agree with you. You know, I do feel that, you know, it's important for someone to develop enough where they understand who they are without the plant, and then who they are with the plant. And you know, I'm sometimes some people, you know, it took me probably till I was 30 before I felt like I was fully mature.
Exactly.
You know, but
really not mature at 18. But that's what I tell you. Hey, at least wait till then, and just
right.
I mean, like I said, it's one of those things. It's hard when it's a kid. It's those tough questions to ask. You got to ask yourself, well, what is the right thing to tell her?
Yeah.
And it's like you can't be like, hey, this is evil, stay away from it, but yet I smoke it. You can't be a liar and a hypocrite.
Exactly. So I agree with you. I think telling the truth and giving them as much factual information, and let them decide if it's something that they want to try when they're of age. I think that's a really important thing, because, you know, I'm obviously wearing a shirt that says "Can an athlete?" You know, we're working with athletes that consume cannabis, and for me, I didn't want people to get the idea that, okay, if you just smoke some cannabis, you know, you could perform at the highest levels. You know, like, did you have a process where you had to learn about how you interacted and your relationship with the plant before you got to a place where, you know, you were able to use it without abusing it?
Yeah, no, I think it's that when I first started smoking, I was, you know, just, you know, you start smoking all the time. I'd see it and just start smoking all the time and smoking too much. Then I realized, all right, I got to pick and choose when I use it, because it's if I use it properly, it's beneficial to me. But if I don't, it can slow me down. It's one of those very fine lines. And so I tell each person that's going to use cannabis, it's a drug that's different for everyone. That's why there's so many different opinions on it. There's some people I know that smoke it and they actually get way more energy and get way more creative, and actually do a lot more. And there's other people who does the opposite effect. So I think each person has to learn cannabis and how it affects their body, and learn when they should smoke. If you smoke and it makes you want to go down and take a nap, then you shouldn't smoke right before work, obviously. But if it makes you super creative, then yeah, go and smoke and go and be creative.
Yeah, I think I really like that, you know, talking about how everyone's biochemistry is different.
Exactly.
Because I used to be one of those people, because I am the type that gets energized. So I used to, when I heard people talking about, like, it would make them sleepy or they would feel lazy, I was just, it was hard for me to understand.
Yeah.
But as I got older, and as I understood politics, you know, it's easy to see we don't all think the same.
Yeah,
we're not all the
it doesn't
same.
affect everyone the same, and that's what you got to realize by looking at these things, is to see different people have different body chemistries, and it's going to hit them different ways.
Yeah. So one of the things that that I've read about a lot about you is that you're also a vegetarian. So, you know, we were just talking about the sacred plant, but I was curious, you know, like a lot of high-level athletes, you know, a lot of them think protein and having that is like super important, or like, you know, more specifically like protein from meat sources. So, you know, how long have you been a vegetarian?
I've grown up vegetarian, so for me it's super easy and natural, and my parents vegetarian, so I just having never eaten meat, I've never really thought about the protein. It just seems my body feels great the way it is, so I figured no reason to change anything. And I've eaten meat a couple times just out of curiosity, and I got so sick my body wouldn't take it, and it's just so maybe never want to eat it again.
Interesting.
And to me, having never, I mean, I'm not the kind of guy to try to preach and tell people to be vegetarian, but having never eat it, it seems so gross when you look at it and stuff. So to me, I'm just like, oh man, that seems so gross.
Yeah.
But I tell people, you know, I always get people asking me questions about, you know, should vegetarian, should I be this? And of course I'm encouraging people too, but what I try to tell people, if you're not sure about it, the best thing to do is don't just 100% cut meat out, just cut your meat way back. I know a lot of people said, you know, they'll eat meat like twice a week now, and they feel way better than when they're eating meat like, you know, 2-3 times a day.
That's interesting. I mean, I'm a meat and potatoes type of guy. I mean, I'm like so skinny that if I didn't eat whatever was in front of me. Yeah, but there was just about a year or two ago, my body, you know, just started changing on me where like getting like a prime rib. It just wasn't as appealing anymore.
Doesn't settle quite as
But
well. Yeah.
you know, just eating it a few times a week or just a lot smaller portions now, you know, I do feel like my body has I don't know, like less waste, or I do feel more energetic, like it's easier to process.
Yeah, I've never eaten meat consistently, so I can't say what it would do to my body. But I know a lot of people that have eaten a lot of meat and then gone to not meat, and they all say they feel a lot cleaner and a lot faster. Some people that fully stop eating meat, some say they feel way better. Others say they feel like less energy, especially at first, because their body like wants the protein. So people are having those problems. That's why I say, hey, just go ahead and eat it like twice a week, so your body doesn't fully go into shock from stopping the protein or the animal protein.
And then you said you grew up as a vegetarian.
Yeah.
Was that a health issue, or was it a moral issue, or was it both?
I think my parents, they were a little hippie-ish, so it was probably a little more of a, they were where they were at. It's kind of a moral thing. They stopped, and then for me, it was both. It's just I feel really healthy this way, and then once I got old enough to make my own decisions to eat meat, it just seemed a little wrong, especially the factory farming. If I was to like go hunt and catch my own meat, I'd have a hard time killing an animal, but I'd feel a little better about it. But just the way the farming's set up and the waste and like all the videos coming out now when they're showing that it's just not sustainable long term the way we're eating meat.
Oh man, it's I still eat meat, so I sound like a hypocrite, but all I needed to do was watch like 5 minutes of one of those
like
videos of the factory. Oh man,
it's factory farming. Yeah, no, it's one of those tough issues though, because like that's why it's not as easy for me. I grew up vegetarian, so it's really easy for me to say, oh, eating meat's bad. I've never eaten meat. But if you grow up when it becomes a habit, it's not just as simple as, oh, I'm not going to eat that anymore.
So I also read like a lot of the people that you train with are also vegetarians. So is that something that you influence them, or?
I wouldn't say necessarily influence them, but it probably helped. The fact that they saw that I was vegetarian, I was strong and athletic, and I think Nick got really into studying diet and effects on bodies, so he pretty much quit eating meat. He may eat fish occasionally, or he may be full vegan. He kind of goes back and forth. And then Nate, with Nick being his brother that he looks up to and everything, he kind of followed suit. And then some of the other guys we train with, we have several other guys that are vegetarians and vegans, and a lot of the guys may not be like full vegan, but they eat mostly that diet. But they won't call themselves that, because every now and again they'll eat a little fish or something.
Well, it's interesting. I listen to the Joe Rogan podcast, and I'll admit I get influenced a lot by what he says. And I wouldn't say he's anti-vegan, but he has had said, as well as he's had guests come on that talk about like you're not able to achieve like peak physical performance unless you're getting animal protein. So I think it's always good to have an athlete like yourself that's kind of breaking paradigms, not just on the vegan diet, but also consuming cannabis. And to me, that's why I felt it was like a perfect match for Vapexhale to team up with you and try to promote a positive image for.
Yeah, exactly. Because people often tell you that that you have to do something, but it's not based off anything. Like the meat, they'll just say it's just people for some reason associate with manliness, but it's not really based off any studies. And same with cannabis, people are like, oh, that'll make you lazy in this, but like that's not based off any studies. It's just based off hearsay. So it's nice to be able to break those stereotypes.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was interesting is I don't like to kick someone when he's down, but one of the naysayers of the vegetarian or vegan diet was Connor's movement coach, Ido Portal. And I actually watched that interview, and then there was a few like parkour and free runners that were doing the exact same things that he was doing, but they were vegans. And I just, as much as I like Rogan and I like the movement coach, I just thought it was a bit it's dangerous when you make blanket statements like that, because someone that might be interested in that lifestyle would be turned off when they hear something like that.
When you make statements like that based off nothing, it's really stupid. Like, I like Rogan. I mean, Rogan's a great guy, and I think he's very intelligent and pushes a lot of interesting conversations. But sometimes he'll push an angle like not based off anything, based off just hearsay. And that's one of these examples where he starts repeating these things, but it's not based off any science or any actuality.
Yeah, and he's always really good about, I think, in general, 99% of the times about like if something isn't based on science or facts. He's really good about bringing that up and making sure that people understand that. So
exactly, and he'll correct himself sometimes when he realizes he's wrong, which I like that about Joe Rogan. Like, I don't always agree with everything he says, but I definitely respect his opinions, and he'll bring people on to disagree with them. And it's nice in this world that people that like to be challenged and challenge other ideas. So it's great that that a podcast is that popular that's pushing people to think differently in ideas.
Yeah, and I believe that's the most important thing, which is regardless of how we think or if we agree or disagree, I think it's important that as we get new information, that may challenge our previous ideology, that, you know, we are flexible
I
enough.
think people need, exactly, and too many people are so rigid. They make something up in their mind, whether it's politics, science, whatever it is. They're set one way, and they're not willing to listen at the other ideas, because sometimes things we believe may not be correct. So it's always good to, you know, have discussions with people, to get their ideas and get their opinions, and try to think about their perspective. And sometimes every now and again you're like, maybe I was wrong on that issue.
Yeah. I mean, as someone that did like meat, you know, like to hear Rogan say that, like, I automatically kind of, you know, jumped on that bandwagon because I felt like
because that's what you want to believe.
Yeah, exactly.
Often you want to believe something, so you hear it, you're going to believe it.
Correct.
It's hard to believe something that you don't want to believe. Now, that's how humans are wired. If we have our minds made, and if we're hearing something that isn't how we want it to be, it's easy to say, nah, that's not true.
Exactly. And then 100 people could tell you it's not true, but you just find one person that agrees with you, and you're like, that guy's right.
You seek out the information that we want to hear.
Yeah. I mean, it was just my own kind of experience, like cutting back on the meat and feeling like that I wasn't weaker. And as a matter of fact, I felt like, you know, like my mental clarity was there.
Conditions better.
Yeah. So, you know, that's when I started really thinking, like, you know, like I had to challenge that belief system in myself that meat was required for optimal performance. I was going to ask you if you tried the ketogenic diet, but then
no.
That'd be tough to deal with.
Yeah, those diets are hard because, you know, they're so meat-based.
Yeah. I
mean, I'm curious about all those diets everyone's trying. They're always trying different ones. There's, you know, the one with all the protein, then there's the new one everyone's doing, this thing got all the fat. And I'm not against those diets, but again, I think there are these diets that are coming in, people are preaching them, but they're not based off science. And it doesn't mean they're not good diets, but it's just there hasn't been enough studies done on these diets to really know.
Yeah. So speaking of diet, like, you know, I know you're a vegetarian, but do you eat a specific way to make sure you have like a certain ratio of like proteins, fats, and carbs so that you could perform correctly?
I don't. I kind of just eat whatever. I mean, not whatever. I'm sure to eat lots of fruits, vegetables. I'll get, you know, beans, brown rice, quinoas. I try to eat good food, but I'm not getting exact ratios.
Got it. Well, I
kind of just learn what makes my body feel good when I eat it, so I can kind of tell what my body needs and what doesn't.
Well, you know, that's interesting. Is I spoke to a nutritionist once about, you know, various things that people had told me that really worked for them but didn't work for me, and some stuff that did work for them that worked for me, and ultimately what the nutritionist said was just what you said, which was,
you gotta watch your own body.
Yeah, listen to your body. You know, your body will be the one that tells you if it likes it or not. You know, if you're eating something and you have the runs,
you don't feel good. Yeah,
your body probably doesn't like
they
that.
might say it's healthy, but your body ain't taking it. It's unfortunate that, you know, we know so, you know, our science is such a high level, but we know so little about diet. There's so many different opinions about diet, and it's just none of them have been proven, or not much of it's been proven. So it's pretty shitty that we don't know exactly how to eat.
Yeah.
So that's why for me, I try to eat like at least amount of processed foods, you know, lots of fruits, vegetables. I know some people say not even to eat fruits, but I don't think that's right. You know, I feel good when I eat fruit because well, the sugar and this, but it makes my body feel good, so I eat the fruit.
Yeah, I think what I have come to understand is if you eat a lot of fruit and you don't exercise, then it converts to sugar, and then you have all of the issues that having a lot of sugar in your body has. But if you're active like yourself, then as long as you burn it off, it doesn't convert into...
I need a lot of carbs. When I try to cut my carbs back too much, I have no energy, so...
Yeah. So, really good. So, you got to get on a flight in a few hours, so I don't want to take up too much of your time. So, just to wrap it up, I know that your opponent is quite a character, so, you know, you want to say anything about AJ?
I've never met the guy, but he seems like just... everywhere I was going, everyone kept being like, "Oh my God, I hate AJ. He's such a douchebag." Generally, people say it to people they don't know on TV, and you know, sometimes guys can look like a jerk on TV, but people that actually know him like him. But everywhere I'd go, I'm like, "Oh, I hate this guy. Kick his ass." And I wasn't getting it. But then last night I was doing an interview for a BJJ podcast, and this guy calls in and just starts talking crap to me. He starts telling me in an interview starts telling everyone that we trained together, and he tapped me out a bunch of times. I've never met this guy in my life. He's just apparently he's just delusional.
So we look forward to you know, you tapping AJ out, and you know, it's interesting when you hear about like people's I guess kind of persona and stuff, and when you actually meet them. So, you know, one of the things before we end that I wanted to ask you was, you know, obviously, you know, this guy AJ has a big personality. You know, Connor had a big personality. Is that something that you think you'll be working into yourself, or is that just, you leave the theatrics for the showman?
I mostly leave it for them. I'm myself. It's hard for me to go out there and try to act like I'm someone I'm not. I mean, every now and again I'll talk a little shit here and there, but generally when I talk shit, it's because I'm really irritated, not trying to fake it. I mean, I get there's nothing wrong with the showman. It can be good for the sport, it can push things forward. But for me, I have a hard time acting being somebody I'm not.
Yeah. Well, I think I feel the same way. This is why the people that represent our brands, these are people that I believe, their ideologies are similar to our company, so that no one needs to be acting or putting on a show. We could be ourselves. We could promote what we're doing in a positive manner and show people by example, as opposed to just talking about, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that, which is why I really love, working with you and Danny, because, I think this all goes back to, it doesn't surprise me that you don't like watching TV, which is, being entertained by other people versus going out and creating something that's completely different feeling. And, as much as I love TV, I'd rather be out doing something, making connections and,
I prefer going out, meeting people, doing things, creating life, and not that I don't like sitting back and watching TV occasionally, but overall I prefer to be out doing things.
All right, so as I said, I don't want to keep him too long because the man is peaking for his performance. So any last things that you want to say to our audience that's watching?
No, just thanks for the support. Check out Vapexhale, of course.
Yeah.
Check out my match on Polaris. I think it's at Polaris. I think it's PolarisPro.com or something.
PolarisPro.com. Jake, and how could they find you on Instagram, Twitter, and all the various
Jake Shields, AJJ, and then just Jake Shields on Facebook and Instagram.
And AJJ stands for American Jiu-Jitsu.
Yep.
Yeah. So, hey, thanks everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed getting to know a little bit more about Jake. I feel like I'm a kid in heaven, being able to meet guys like him that I grew up watching, and to start a company that was just, basically trying to produce the best way to consume cannabis. And here I am sitting with athletes that also like consuming cannabis, that love utilizing the device.
It's just the start.
Yeah. So here's another lesson, follow your dreams in life, because a lot of people are probably going to discourage you. I'm sure fighting is something that...
There wasn't too many people supporting that in the beginning. There was a lot of people being like, oh, you're crazy, don't do that. Go back to college. Then as soon as you start making it, then everyone's like, oh yeah, I had your back all along.
And that was back in the dark days too, where you had to be on the Indian
there was really
casinos.
Not very many supporters back then.
Yeah.
I was like, no, you're crazy, don't do that. But hey, it paid off. Got to do what I love for a living.
Yeah, so this isn't just follow your dreams, but you got to follow your dreams and put 100% into it.
That's what I tell people, because people go follow your dreams. 100% follow your dreams, but you can't like drop out of college and be like, oh cool, I'm a professional fighter, and go to the gym 3 times a week. It's like, no, you got to put every ounce of your energy and fully focus. I'm for sure you're putting a lot of hours in this company that is not putting itself together. I'm sure people don't see behind the scenes.
No.
You're working. So it's don't drop out to follow your dreams, not to do shit. Go work a 9-to-5 job if you're gonna do that. If you got to drop out to follow your dreams, you better be working your ass off.
Yeah, and the analogy I use, it's like poker. You got to go all in. If you decide to follow your dream, if you don't go all in and it fails, I feel like you'll always have like some sort of like excuse in the back of your mind, like, I went to the gym 3 times. If I just went 4 times, I would have beaten the guy.
Yep.
And I think regret is the thing that, if you ask people about, when they're close to the end of their lives, what's the thing that they regret the most? A lot of it is, not
pursuing something or putting the right energy. Exactly.
Correct. So you heard it from Jake. You heard it from me. Follow your dreams. Go all in. And, let the balls fall where they may. But, if you use us as examples, I think it'll lead you in the right direction. And if it doesn't, you're still going to learn a lot about yourself in the process as well.
Cool.
All right. Take it easy, guys.
See ya.